Today is Wednesday, July 30, 2014. It's the 211th day of the year. There are 154 days remaining until the end of 2014. On this day in 1975, Jimmy Hoffa disappears from the parking lot of the Matches Red Fox restaurant in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, suburban Detroit, at about 2:30 in the afternoon. He is never seen nor heard from again. James Riddle, Jimmy Hoffa, runs the Teamsters union, building the organization into the nation's largest and most powerful labor union. All right, so how powerful is it? Without Teamsters, you wouldn't be eating those cornflakes. You wouldn't be wearing those slippers. Your wife wouldn't be wearing that sheer negligee across the breakfast table from you, trying like hell to get your attention. You wouldn't be gulping that handful of aspirin because of that headache you got because your neighbor needs to power mow his pitiful little lawn at 7 in the morning before he goes to work. As a truck driver. In 1961, Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy launches the strongest attack on organized crime the country has ever seen, and he builds a Get Hoffa squad of investigators and prosecutors. Hoffa's convicted, all right, in 1964 of jury tampering, attempted bribery of a grand jury, and fraud for misuse of the union pension fund. He begins a 13-year prison sentence in 1967, after exhausting the appeals process. In 1971, Hoffa makes a deal with President Richard Milhouse Nixon. Hoffa agrees not to be involved in any union activity in exchange for a presidential pardon. 4 years later, Hoffa disappears from the parking lot of a suburban Detroit restaurant where he's gone thinking he's going to a sit-down meeting with Anthony Giacalone and Anthony Provenzano, the two Tonys. Giacalone, union leader with the Teamsters in New Jersey. Provenzano, Teamsters vice president during Hoffa's second term as the boss. When Hoffa doesn't return home, his wife calls the police, who find Hoffa's unlocked Pontiac in the parking lot. And of course, the two Tonys have solid alibis. They were nowhere near that restaurant on that day. 7 years later, on this day in 1982, Jimmy Hoffa is legally declared dead. Well, lots of famous people have disappeared, which is plenty suspicious.
How suspicious is it?
Plenty. Although it's only Jimmy Hoffa who goes missing on this day. A few of those still missing are Spartacus. Yeah, you thought he was killed in battle during the Third Servile War in 71 BC. And the Kirk Douglas movie has him martyred, crucified in mass Roman execution. But historically, this rebel slave's body never found, and his fate remains unknown to this day. And what about that Hereward the Wake? In 1071, 5 years after the Norman conquest of Britain, Hereward leads a huge revolt against William the Conqueror, a conqueror you definitely should know. Lots of Hereward's followers are captured, executed, mutilated, betrayed by scared-ass local clerics the rebels trust to keep their hideout secret. But no, that doesn't happen. Hereward, though, he gets out in time, escapes, disappears into history. And then there's those Roanoke colonists from Virginia. In 1590, they disappear, all of them. They become the Lost Colony. Just in case you were wondering why they don't come around here no more. On this day in 2003 in Mexico, the last old-style Volkswagen Type I, the Beetle, rolls off the assembly line. They had to stop making these things because they don't conform to emission standards anymore. And Mexico City really needs to do something about its smog problem because everybody's starting to wheeze like mad down there. So 2003, and that's it. 21.5 million bugs on the road since 1941. The car, Hitler's idea. In 1934, he wants to build a car that people can afford to drive, but not a piece of crap. Hitler has dinner with Ferdinand Porsche and Hans Ledwinka. Ledwinka has a car he's designed, the Tatra. Porsche builds performance cars. Porsche agrees to design a car for Hitler, a people's car, which is what Volkswagen means in the English. Hitler, a lot of people don't know this, he's a car buff. He loves cars almost as much as he loves tanks. 4 years later, when Porsche shows Hitler his Volkswagen design, which he's mostly ripped off from Ledwinka's Tatra, Hitler says, "This is the car for my roads." There's some historic dispute about that quote. One historian says the quote is more authentically, "This is the car for my highways." Cripes, there they go again. Who cares? What Hitler really says is, Ooh, I just love that cute little thing. How soon can you build that little beauty? Of course, mass production hampered by the war in Europe, but once they get going, after the war, they pay off Ledwinka, settle down to selling Volkswagens all around the world. Ambrose Bierce, in his unabridged Devil's Dictionary, defines homicide as the slaying of one human being by another. There are 4 kinds of homicide: felonious, excusable, justifiable, and praiseworthy. But it makes no great difference to the person slain whether he fell by one kind or another. The classification is for the advantage of the lawyers. From Rutland, Vermont, this is Richard Alcott speaking.